Babe Ruth, one of sport's greatest legends. Between his rankings and immense personal charisma, both on the field and off, Babe Ruth became an American legend with his record of 60 home runs during the 1927 season and a grand total of 714 home runs that stood for 30 years until it was broken by Hank Aaron. Ruth was born in South Baltimore, 1895, to German-American parents. His mother and father worked long hours, and as a result, Ruth was sent to St. Mary's Industrial School for Boys at age 7. The school might more correctly be called an orphanage and a reformatory, and this was the environment where Ruth spent the next 12 years of his life. Despite constant problems with authority, Ruth found a lifetime of love of baseball and steadily developed his hitting, fielding, and pitching. It is interesting to note that though Ruth wrote with his right hand, he both pitched and hit left-handed, or southpaw. At the age of 19, in 1914, Ruth was signed to the Baltimore Orioles. Due to Ruth's age, Dunn, the owner of the Orioles, had to become his legal guardian, and at that point, the age of majority was 25. The Orioles nicknamed Ruth Jack's newest babe, and the name stuck with him for the rest of his life. Later in the year, Ruth was sold along with 2 other players to the Boston Red Sox, where for the next 2 years he would work and refine his skills that would make him famous. He pitched exceptionally well during those 2 years, but his real talent, hitting, was already growing. Ruth made the decision that he wanted to hit more and pitch less, despite other teammates warning him that it would shorten his career. During the 1919 season, his last with the Boston Red Sox, he would set his first single-season home run record with 29 runs total. In 1920, Ruth was sold to the New York Yankees, where he'd stay for the next 15 seasons. 1921 marked perhaps the single best year of his career. He hit 59 home runs, batted .378, and led the New York Yankees to their very first league championship. 1921 also marked his 139th home run, breaking the former record that had been held by Roger Connor. Though Ruth participated in many defining moments in baseball history, perhaps one of the most memorable occurred as third game of the 1932 World Series. During the 5th inning, while facing off against the Cubs pitcher, Charlie Root, Ruth, amid jeers from fervent Cub fans, pointed to the center field bleachers and followed this gesture with what was thought the longest home run hit out of Wrigley Field. This pitch was shot back over the center field bleachers, precisely where Babe had pointed, and though it is uncertain what Ruth meant by pointing at that location, it is still remembered as one of baseball's golden moments. Ruth's career in the sport that made him famous lasted 22 years, and in that time, he hit the most home runs of his era. In 1927, during the 154-game stretch, he hit an astounding 60 home runs, a record that stood until it was broken by Roger Maris in 1961. It is, however, important to note that Maris hit 61 home runs, but only during an expanded 162-game schedule. In Pittsburgh, on Forbes Field, Ruth drove in 6 runs and hit 3 home runs during a game that would be lost 11-7 to the Pittsburgh Pirates. His last run of this game, the last of his career as it would turn out, cleared the roof of Forbes Field. Ruth was the first hitter to do this. Just 5 days later in Philadelphia, Ruth would strike out in the first inning and hurt his knee, leaving what would be his last major league game. Ruth's history in baseball was a long and illustrious one. In his first 6 years, he won 89 games and set the World Series records for continuous scoreless innings. For the New York Yankees, he led them to win 7 American League pennants and 4 World Series. And with 714 home runs, 60 of which were scored in a single amazing season, it was easy to see why he deserved the title the Sultan of SWAT. In 1936, Ruth, along with 4 other players, were the first to be elected into the Baseball Hall of Fame. And in 1969, he was declared the greatest baseball player ever during a ballot that celebrated 100 years of baseball. He is often viewed as America's first real sports superstar. We hope you enjoyed this brief history on the great legend, Babe Ruth. Please take a few moments to review the free bonuses you'll get with your bid on this item. Don't miss out on this amazing showpiece. Place your bid today. If you find our products intriguing, please take a few moments to click the link below and sign up for our mailing list. We'll keep you up to date when we add great new products like the one in this listing. We hope you enjoyed this brief history on the great legend, Babe Ruth.